Okay, welcome everybody to another Sharing the Path salon. This time our guest presenter is Gabe, and I am going to set up um, I'm going to give us an overview of the call and give us some cultural standards of how we interact with one another. And then Kent is going to give us a little intro to Gabe himself, and then we'll hear from Gabe. And then at the end, we'll have time for questions and discussion as usual. Um, okay. So yeah, the call is about 90 minutes. We like to honor everyone's time, so we'll try to end close to that 90-minute mark. And the way that we like to come together is a very free will honoring space. So we aim for deep connection with ourselves first, and that kind of connection that when you're so connected to yourself, you're automatically connected with your other selves. So the invitation is to connect deeply with yourself and then share from that place, share from your direct experience, and then also listen to one another in a similar kind of way. Listen for the resonance that where their truth is coming from and see where it maybe overlaps with your own, where it sparks something for you. And if it perhaps doesn't, if what someone else is sharing is not resonant for you, again, honoring free will. So that we're not all aiming to leave this call agreeing with one another, or that we're not aiming to be convinced by Gabriel and his, what he's sharing. If what he's sharing is resonant for you and it sparks something for you, amazing, but not to take it on as some sort of dogma. Yeah, so that's kind of the culture of the sharing the path space. Okay, and now let's have a little prayer. Connect with our guides. Let's all settle in for a moment. And invite the support of our guides and allies. Guides and allies, we're so grateful for what you bring to our lives. Thank you for holding us as we walk the path of the open heart, the positive path. Thank you for being with us during this gathering. Thank you for uplifting and supporting our call. Thank you for supporting us to receive benefit from our time together and then to share that benefit with the whole Earth Collective. And as always, so much gratitude to the One, Infinite Creator. Amen. And I'll turn it over to Kent.
All right. I'm going to introduce Gabe. I will refer to him as Gabe, not Gabriel. I prefer that. Hope that's okay. Yeah, Gabe is from Venezuela originally, so he is fluent in Spanish as well as English. He is best known to many as the translator of the Law of One material into Spanish. And Gabe, I will read what he wrote to me. Gabe is formerly an atheist under the belief of scientific materialism as the foundation of reality. Over the past 6 years, he has been called and followed the path of non-duality and awareness as the nature of the universe. So around the year 2019, he was experimenting with plant medicine and had a sort of spiritual awakening due to not so much due to the psychedelic nature of the plant medicine, because his first plant medicine experience did not provide him with a psychedelic trip, so to speak. But after that, he had a series of synchronicities. And the synchronicities woke him up to the fact that we do not actually live in a purely materialistic universe. So that made him realize there was something more to the universe than just the material reality. And since then, he's been using the direct path through self-inquiry for his own understanding and helping others do the same, to find inner peace for healing, liberation, and to discern their spontaneous being effortlessly. And so, Wes and I met Gabe at the Coming Home retreat in Philadelphia last year, which was wonderful. That's also where we met Orlando and Ricardo. Orlando, Ricardo, good to see you. It's been a long time. Before that, I had met Gabe at the homecoming in Louisville, Kentucky, uh, where Benjamin was. Hi, Benjamin. Uh, and
Hi.
yeah, hi. And Gabe had a little trouble getting there. He had some car issues on the way, or maybe the police stopped him. I can't remember. Something like that. Yeah. So he was a little late. So he came while we were having our meditation, and he sat in the only seat which nobody else had wanted, which was next to me. Uh, I won't take that personally. Anyway, so yeah, after the meditation, I opened my eyes and turned around and looked at him. And what I saw was a set of eyes that I thought contained great depth and wisdom, but also warmth and humor. And so that is the Gabe that I've gotten to know. And I look forward, I'm very excited about his presentation. Spontaneity is a very exciting topic for me. So, Gabe, go ahead. The floor is yours.
Wow. I didn't expect that part of the introduction. That was beautiful. Thank you, Kent. You never told me that. That warms my heart. First thing I gotta say, I thought I was gonna see some stranger faces, but I see none. I remember all of you, so I'm happy to just be with family here and be able to share, just like Kent explained, I guess, just my path so far and how that links into authenticity and spontaneity. Um, I usually prepare at least some bullet points for what I'm going to talk about, but I thought that would be betraying the title of this presentation. And every time my mind went to think about something and maybe you ruminate on some thoughts of maybe you're going to say this, maybe you're going to say that, I just kept discarding it because it just didn't ring true to me. And there's something to say about spontaneity that actually is the end of what I teach. And I'll talk about that, but I did wanted to lead a guided meditation for a couple of minutes. I'm sure nobody would complain about this. So if we can all just relax, you don't have to close your eyes. If you like to close your eyes, I love to close my eyes because, well, the eyes are the ones that feed most of the frequencies to the brain, or so I was told. Maybe they lied to me. You are pretty much aware that you exist in this moment. And what I want you to do is don't pay attention to anything that the mind says in these moments of silence. Just become acutely aware of that simple and fundamental fact that you are. You don't know what you are, but you at least know that you are. Why else do we seek? What else does the mind look for? Even that's a question that you shouldn't answer. See where the question is coming from. And just let it die where it came from. Our attention seems to go from sensations in the body to thoughts or images that appear. Complex of thoughts, ideas. What is it that is attending thought and feelings, sensations in the body? You. What do you mean when you say I? What does I refer to? If an answer comes up, can you truly be satisfied with that answer? Who are you really? Those who have studied enough would say, I am awareness. But awareness is just another voice in the mind, noise. Doesn't mean anything. You are you. You are the one attending an experience. I want you to see experience as all movement, mental or physical, and actually collapse the two as just movement. What is it that attends to movement or to the vibrations of the body and the mind? It's what you call I. I know my experience. What happens when we bring that attention to its source, to the sense of self? Where is the mind then? You say nothing remains, but yet you are. that which you experience as a nothingness, an emptiness, which itself is alive or life itself before it's been qualified by the mind or the body. That's never absent in the face of experience. That peaceful being is always present. It's what we call presence. It's what you call I. And it itself does not depend on thought or an image. It exists independent from it. However, experience does not exist on its own because experience is known by me. Just like movement of the body doesn't exist independent from the body, and yet the body can remain still without movement. So is your being. Movement is optional. Don't even call this meditation. That word has too many meanings, too many definitions. Call it curiosity, childish curiosity. A child has always questions. What is the biggest question? The one that swallows them all. Who am I? Before we even ask the question, what is this reality? And let that curiosity bring you deeper into that sense of self, which is what you're inquiring into. Don't worry. All your thoughts and your memories, they'll be available. You are returning to what in religious language they would say the hands of God, and resting there. Being within yourself. Here in this place, something beautiful happens. And it's that we no longer have to run away from the mind. Actually, the mind is playful. It works in ups and downs in so many fascinating ways. Once we have returned to our identity, then You can see its playfulness. What does it want to do? What's its game? Not only do you know yourself as the one universal being, which is not an individual being, but the one, you also know what you do, or rather, what happens. Acceptance becomes a meaningless word because just like we don't condition space to allow for objects, we don't condition the self to allow for experience or accept experience. Acceptance is just a gimmick to say, do not resist experience. Do not turn away from experience. Embrace it just as it is. No expectations and no preconceived notions of how it should be. I would rather use the state of non-resistance than the state of acceptance. And then watch what happens. Be surprised by the unknown. Be yourself. And once again, who are you? At this point, I want to invite everybody to come back to the world of experience. You can stay in silence as we continue. Now, this exploration that you were also kind to share with me, and I thank you, everybody, for following through. Even more gratitude if you didn't. Just follow that void. This exploration is what begins and what ends everything. I was fascinated for a while with the idea of meditation, and I was puzzled by it for a long time. And this is what set me up in this path of self-knowledge and also of trying to understand reality. Like Kent said in the introduction, I I was fascinated by the changes that happen in my perspective, and I began to be more interested in the nature of reality. And I found that awareness was at the core of the most important and most known traditions in the world. And it was through this that I followed this investigation, and I realized that there was one thing that was at the core also of this whole spiritual path, and it was this concept of the ego. And that interested me because I couldn't recognize what the ego was, much as I did in different concepts that I read about. Um, Anybody else struggle with understanding the ego at some point or still has issues? Raise your hand. Let me see some hands. There we go. Yes. And this seems like a foundational thing. We have to understand, what do we mean by ego? And it wasn't until years later when I realized that, well, how could I possibly understand what the ego is when I don't even know who I am? Of course, I'm going to be confused. The idea of being an ego is just being confused. That's it. It's not about becoming an individual being. You never come separate from reality. And this didn't come clear until the point in which I had the direct insight that everybody speaks about. And it was just so simple. And that revealed, huh, ego is just a thought, and we call it I. And so I, which is what we investigate here, is a two-way door. Everything we say after I is an individual self, but what I refers to is not at all anything. And this is the true knowledge. This is the true understanding of who you are. And we try to seek this through meditation, but that's just another tool for the mind to try and do something. That's why I would rather call it curiosity. Let's ignite that curiosity that is much more playful than the thinking mind that wants to construct things and wants to achieve things. And once I realized what the dynamic of the mind was to sustain this sense of being an individual, I started to see within my self structure that there were some things that were in place to keep repeating the same patterns. And I realized, oh, this is what we call blockages. It's a very simple thing that we see in our minds. And the blockages, interestingly, they're all built on the ego. So there's a sequence here. We see that as long as we think that we are an individual self, then that'll create blockages to a certain degree. And so we call this, I need healing. But who is the one that needs healing? We go back to the sense of self. And then at that point, you're fully liberated. It's only when you come back to the sense of the individual I that you seem to have issues, problems, because they are reflecting back in the mind. And so that's what we call simply a contrived being, a self that depends on thought and memory to exist. And guess what? That one's not spontaneous at all. You can be spontaneous uh, by premeditation. You can be spontaneous by thinking first. So, how do we allow, not become, allow spontaneity in the meditation, I said that I would rather call it no resistance as opposed to acceptance. Because acceptance, there's still a cue in the mind to say, do this, do acceptance. How do we do that? How does one accept? Better to call it do not resist that which is coming. Once again, we're in the state of meditation, allowing, observing. What's fascinating over time is that the more we return to this state of unknowing, this simply being, then there is a shift that begins to happen in the mind because we are taking away the one thing that creates the cycles of experience, what we call blockages, which is the sense of individuality. That's taken away, being an individual being. And when that's taken away, the whole structure starts to crumble. One of the things that I found even more fascinating in this path about healing is that the need to actually go and target specific parts of ourselves to heal, it's no longer there. Why? Because we're taking away the one part of the structure that creates it and maintains it all. And this is just a simple return to yourself. And again, you can call it meditation because everybody calls it that. I'm fine with it. But it's just where curiosity leads us to. And it doesn't have to be reserved to the cushion on the floor or the couch or whatever you meditate. This remembering happens all the time. So I hope you can see how just the remembering of who we are begins to dissolve this playfulness that has been there for a while called the ego, which is really a non-existent entity. And by function of weakening this tendency, which is really just a tendency to associate ourselves with memory and thoughts and stories and narratives. It's a tendency. What we call the ego is simply a tendency of who, of awareness, of you, who you truly are. It's like a light beam being reflected on a surface and saying, I am the surface. I am that which I'm reflected into. Then the surface collapses and there's a crisis of identity. Where am I? Still am. So the more we debilitate this tendency to just identify itself with which it reflects onto, see, there's no problem here having experience and thoughts. They're all great. The only thing is that tendency. And that's where attention is usually going to, where it creates a character. Once you take away that, there's no drama. It's just isness of what is. And that crumbles the whole structure of the contrived self, of the actor that plays different roles. More and more, you begin to feel something interesting too. That is, there's a familiar personality shining through you. And you say, I know this guy. I used to be afraid of him because people would make fun of him or her, or they used to think this way or that way. It's you. It's that primal movement. That's why we all feel like children. When we begin this path, we feel like we want to do more of what we love to do. And that's the spontaneous self. You can't do anything against it, only repress it. And it doesn't feel nice. You don't have to do anything for it. It's just doing it itself by its own. There's no feeding it, no learning, no teaching it. It learns on its own. And it's what we call discernment. When it's hijacked by that self structure, it's called judgment. Without the self structure, it's discernment. And some of you may be familiar with love and wisdom. Ah, that's the discernment. Anything that it does, it can either add a bit of boundaries or maybe a bit of openness. Love and wisdom. And through that is where the self blossoms. It burgeons with many petals, potentially infinite petals. It's happening more and more as we remain in the state of non-resistance. Here's the thing. They gave me another word to work with, which I rarely use, but authenticity. Authenticity is what people call us. We don't see it. We don't see anything authentic. When people say that to us, we say, "What are you talking about?" "Oh yeah, yeah, that's normal. That's what I do." I guess I am authentic. I never thought about it. Of course not. We can be aware of what we are. When we do, watch out. Self-structure again. We can enjoy it. So you see how just the simple curiosity of one question, and it doesn't matter how this question comes up in our lives. I think we're too dazzled by the stories of people who had to explore this question in very intense experiences, very difficult life experiences. And so they awaken from this deep, unwanted state. We can use it every day with a curious glimpse into what it's pointing at. Who am I? Let the mind have its own answer and just be interested at what I is pointing to. You say I, and then there's a check that says, yes, I. What does it mean? Stay there. Of course, the mind's going to try to pull you away. Let's show something interesting for us to pay attention to. That's okay. Because we are still present while the mind is doing this. Don't be shocked. Don't think that you're being pulled away from yourself. And slowly just gently keep returning back to that which I points to. Remain there. Even in the presence of thoughts and agitation and emotions and narratives, all of it. You're always in space. No matter what's happening, you're always in space. And the magic happens. That which used to bother us, used to create issues and problems, this nagging thought that calls itself I and takes ownership of all the experiences and memories. And yeah, but remember, we did this in the past, and you're still doing this, and that's terrible. That's not very spiritual of you. Likes to say that sometimes. Then that starts to be a little bit phony. It's difficult to kind of follow in and believe in. It's like when you're a friend and you try to act, but you know you're a bad actor and you just start laughing because you're just a bad actor. And he laughs too, or she laughs too. That's how the relationship with this reinforced individual self is. You laugh. This informs the mind in a way that nothing else can do. This recognition will reshape the mind in a way that no exercise, no practice will ever do. I say that with all my heart. It'll change everything. And you know it's true because it is you, the absolute self, that's doing it. Only a few among you know that even though I studied the law of one and I became interested in many things, secretly my heart was pumping Zen in every single beat. Zen at my heart. Because it was so simple, so direct, even more than the direct path. And so I remember a quote from this guy over here, patriarch of Zen, Bodhidharma, where he said, if you study reality with your mind, you won't understand reality or your mind. If you study reality without your mind, you'll understand both. That's what he meant. No mind. Let the mind do its thing. It's not telling you anything real. It's a story. It's a helpful story sometimes. We can tell stories to each other. We all have names here. That's a story. It's a helpful one. But to believe it deep in our hearts, not really. When you are with yourself, just be with yourself. Then your life becomes effortless somehow. How can you possibly worry? Who worries? You have to have thought for that. You have to depend on thought for you to worry. Check it out for yourselves. Can you possibly worry without thought? No. Doesn't it make sense that the more we stay in this peaceful, quiet being, the mind will get the message and say, huh, okay, I think I like that better. Discernment, once again. Does it require a special state of mind? Does it require years of practice? No. It only requires honesty, dedication, But overall, curiosity. Where is that curiosity that we had as children? What if we focus it completely on this question? Just for a couple of minutes. I'm not saying the whole day. Just a couple of minutes. You may like it enough that you'll spend hours on it. People will say, wow, he can meditate. That's a nice word. Just curious. This is all I can really share from my path and my experience, coming from somebody who was absolutely dependent on a cell structure that was so rigid that even plant medicine couldn't do anything. Even the most powerful things for the brain couldn't break it. And it was something else that started to shake this materialistic reality. There's no matter. It's only belief. That's how rigid my structure was. And the one message I got was that, what is this awareness thing? Nobody explores. And suddenly everything started crumbling. It was painful for my ego. But every time we allow that dissolving of beliefs, there's a sense of liberation, sense of, ah, I feel better now. Even though I lost something, you let go of something. So let go of everything, absolutely everything. That's what the key word here is about surrender and abandoning everything. Not your job, your family, your house. It's for the moment only. Out of the curiosity. Curiosity of who am I will lead you there. Just watch. Watch as everything changes. Now, don't watch or do this expecting that it'll change because it won't. You can't go here with an expectation and come out. You have to go there without anything. Wait without hope, for hope will be for the wrong thing. Abandon all hope. Then you'll be fine. I think this is all that my mind wanted to share today. So thank you for listening and being curious with me.
Thank you, Gabe. That was beautiful. And I would say you started off with like a what, 10-minute meditation, but I think your whole talk was like a meditation. And I think everybody will agree with that. I don't know. I shouldn't say what everybody agrees with. That's what I think. It felt like a meditation, the whole talk. Thank you. I loved one of the last things you said, wait without hope, for hope will be for the wrong thing. Is that a quote from someone or is that your own words?
Yes. No, no. I couldn't come up with something like that. Is
Very
that
good.
T.S. Eliot? I may be
T.S.
wrong.
Eliot, yeah. Right.
I may be wrong. I'm gonna look at.
Yeah, that's great. I love that quote. All right. Do we have any questions or comments or anything?
It
Raise your
was
hand.
T.S. Eliot.
T.S. Eliot. It was T.S. Eliot. Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
That's great. I love that.
I'll share. Um, yeah, I feel resonant with what you shared, Kent, that the whole presentation, the whole talk felt like a meditation, because it felt as if you were speaking from your direct experience and not from an extrapolation or concepts, just directly from what you find to be real and true. And I really appreciate that. I'm really touched by that. Um, Both your capacity to do that and your interest in doing that. I feel
Mm.
a lot of fellowship with you in that interest. Like, let's get to the heart of it, people. What's going on? Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, BJ. Can I say something for the benefit of everybody too?
Go
Yeah.
ahead.
Everybody knows this. Everybody knows this. And I I've started to work with people who, just like you said, BJ, they've been working with concepts and materials to kind of explain reality and spread the word, the good news, let's say. And there's a yearning in them that says, I wish I could just talk about this without materials and references. And it's just a little bit of trust that you know this, but you're not trusting the mind that is filtering this understanding through you. There is no right way to teach this. And a lot of people also fall into this path. And one of their concerns is, which is a big one, I think everybody would relate to this, is that how can I tell this to my friends and my family who are not into this? Right? Everybody has that feeling. Like, how do I communicate? How do I make them feel this? You have to trust the way your mind works because you're doing it already. You don't need concepts. You don't need anything. I mean, they're helpful. They're fun. We can use them and relate. So many materials out there, but you got to trust yourself and just, you don't have to become a philosopher or a teacher or anything. Just trust that that peaceful being, which is you, is being filtered through your mind, and whatever comes through, that's it. It doesn't have to be anything special, exotic, or super complicated. No, you're a simple expression. And the more you see this, the more you find people who you say, ah, this guy knows. And as we see in Zen, there's anybody seen the Buddha that is like a very immensely fat Buddha? I've seen those. You have a question
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
who's that? And who is this Buddha? Like slim, slender Buddha. What's the difference? So this one is a Chinese called Putai or Hote. And he was just a guy who was on the streets. He used to just give candy to children and so on. He was called a Buddha because he was just himself. Was this guy teaching Zen? No. See? So it's just about being yourself and trusting that what you are is the whole truth speaking through you. I know it sounds like, wow, I would love that. How do I do that? Don't try. If you try, you fail. You gotta trust. So even those who want to teach this and they're still using materials, take that leap. Do it. It's in you already. Allow it through.
Yeah, go ahead,
Right.
Orlando.
Orlando has a question. Okay. Go ahead, Orlando.
No, I just want to say thank you Gabriel, for the presentation. That was excellent. And also for this last bit that you added there, where I can relate a lot to reading books, material, concepts, all these things. And I realize that when I'm having one-on-one with my patients on a day-to-day, what ends up connecting us is we meet at somewhere at a personal level, and all these concepts go out the door. And there is that connection where you said, "Oh, this guy knows," and it's like it doesn't matter if I know law of one, if I know Zen or whatever it is. It's just that we got at the level of that direct, basic connection where there is no filter of the mind and it's just happening. And then we both leave like, wow, that was a different encounter. And then the mind kicks in and says, I would like to repeat that same encounter with the next patient that I'm going to see. But you can see glimpses of that when there's that true connection. And I think it relates to this being spontaneous about it and not the sorry, the premeditative part. So I truly can relate with that. I like it. Thank you.
Takes no effort. It's just something that happens in the moment. And I wouldn't even dare to say you adapt, but you just go with whatever it is and just trust whatever it's coming through you. And yeah, that's the authentic relating.
And I also I think when you mentioned the non-resistance, that is key. I was writing it down, and as I was writing it, I said, obviously, it implies absence of the ego, the non-resistance, which is why I think you said you prefer that term instead of acceptance, because acceptance means there's another layer put in place that wants to allow and accept, versus non-resistance removes that separate self from the equation.
Yeah, I find very helpful, and this is something that there are some core wisdoms in flipping things around. Because, for example, in Zen, you would find that whenever there is the seeking of a metaphysical, like the question is metaphysical, they'll give you something physical just to throw you off. And if you're asking something physical, they'll throw you off with something metaphysical. So it's not really an answer, it's just trying to flip you over. And so I find that when our minds have been conditioned so much with one thing, accept, love, and do all these things, just go with the opposite, flip them. And there's something that happens in the mind. And that's what Zen is all about. It's about getting you to a great doubt. It's what they call it, right? You have to cross that uh, gateless gate. So yeah, there's so much that can be said about that. You have to make the mind stop. And that's one of the things that, again, I I think I cannot hide anymore my love for Zen, but that's what they do. They find the best ways to make you stop thinking and see that your thinking is futile. It's nonsense. They'll ignore it. I've said before that I consider, and I use Ramana Maharshi, Zen, and direct path, right? Ramana Maharshi to me represents pure silence. That's the biggest teaching. So nothing else to be said, no directions, pure silence. And direct path is trying to move you there, right? Because you're still doing a concession to the working mind, to the ego. And you kind of give it just one tool. Who are you? Boom, you try to kill it and go directly there. But Zen to me is fascinating because at least what I learned and I absorbed was you would always see these interactions in Zen as the individual self coming with questions and saying, Master, I have issues. And the master says, What? What are you talking about? I have no idea what you're talking about. They completely ignore your intellectual mind and just make you insane, because in that insanity is where you're going to see. So there's no
Mm.
teaching, there's no specific thing. Kent, I don't want to steal more time.
So are you saying Ramana Maharshi was a Buddhist? I thought he was Hindu.
No, Ramana Maharshi was Ramana Maharshi.
Yeah, okay, he was just himself.
He was nothing.
Spontaneous being. Yeah, he was a spontaneous being. Okay, good. What do you think is you said you prefer the term non-resistance over the term acceptance. How about allowance, to allow?
Well, allow again to me, who is allowing? There must be something that has also the option of disallowing, right? Of not allowing. Yes.
To make, yeah, okay.
So
There's got to be some, right?
I'm
I
trying to
got you.
remove as many, um,
Filters.
I lost the word, as many indications as possible, or yeah, because the mind is sticky, and it'll catch that, right? So, all right, I must allow. How do I allow? And here's the kicker, that when you realize that when you know what you are, is there any barrier there? Is there anything there? Where are the barriers? Where's the limitation? Only thought limits it. Like this room, or the space in this room. There is no space in this room. There is only space, right? It's not contained here. That's an illusion. Space is what is. We create certain structures. We say the room. So I'm trying to take away as many limitations as possible that the mind can cling to and do something. No doing.
Right. Makes sense to me. West?
Yeah, what it feels like you're pointing to me is like the personality isn't the one that allows or accepts. And if we say I from the personality or like the small self, I allow this, or it feels like a like the kind of flavor I get sometimes when we say like I'm forgiving something. It's like I forgive you, but as though I still know that you did something wrong. It's like it just feels so ridiculous. Like the personality, the one that still believes that there's separation, can't allow, but the true nature that we are automatically allows. Anyway, that's what it feels like you're pointing to me.
Absolutely. And you just use a word that some of you who have listened to me have heard this many times, but what is forgiveness? Like you said, I think I grew up also with the idea that, well, in my judgment, now allow you to be good again. I have forgiven you. But the word forgiveness in its etymology, what does it mean? For, which is through, give. Give through. Let it go. Release it. Right? Same thing in Spanish. Per, as in Latin, through, donar, which means to donate or to give away. So give it through. That's what forgiveness is. Now, is forgiveness something, like you pointed out, that we do? No, it's what we are. So look inside and see that there's no stickiness to your resentment or your anger or whatever it is. And memories of people. There's no stickiness there. Only if there is the presence of the individual I that says, well, I did this, and plus at that time I was so, this and so sensitive. He was so unreasonable and so on. The story goes away. And so we remain as that which is not sticky.
Resistant and non-sticky. Yeah.
I also
Other
want
questions?
to just
Go
make
ahead.
sure everyone knows that the floor is open. Anyone is welcome to ask a question or share your experience, and no obligation to share as well.
Be spontaneous.
I'll go, if that's all right.
Yeah.
First off, thank you, Gabe, so much. And it was just really nice to sit in a satsang of yours again. So that was a really nice feeling. And at the beginning, I noticed there was 9 of us from Philly this past August, and that just made my heart feel so happy, just seeing seeing everyone and feeling that heart love, that energy, that family feeling. That was so nice. And I just wanted to comment that this talk is reminding me of a Sufi teaching that I've just been diving into by Hazrat Khan. And I just want to read you this one quotation because the way it was worded, it like clicked for me, and maybe it will help some other people that hear this. And the quotation is, Nirvana means no color. What is color? Right or wrong? Sin or virtue? All this is color, and in the realm of truth they fade away, as every color fades in the brightness of light. He who has realized this has entered nirvana. Just wanted to share that. Thank you.
Where was that quote from?
Hazrat Khan, I'll put it in the chat.
Okay.
Thank you, Diana.
Yeah, thank you, Diana. David, you want to go? David, you need to unmute if you want to talk.
There you go. Can you hear me
There you
okay?
go. Yeah, we can hear you now.
Thank you so much. I wanted to say just 2 things. Thank you so much for I was in and out, but I caught the majority of the presentations. Thank you so much, Gabe. Just 2 quick things. As born raised in Colombia, as a Spanish speaker, that slightly broke my brain with permitir, perdonar, donar. It's in the language itself. So thank you, because that was awesome. And more, I guess, secondly to the point, the I've, because of either less wholesome experiences that cause the ego to dissolve, or things that have happened in my life that the sense of identity can shift and dissolve into experience you go through life. It's really hard to carry what we perceive ourselves to be, because it's so easy to identify with, I was born and raised somewhere, I've become a person in another country, I am defined by the parameters of my job, my relationship to my family, all these things. But the being itself, the beingness of just being the awareness, just casting a light on a certain thing, it's kind of hard to not make it an intellectual exercise unless you're actually contemplating it. Like, I guess it's that saying of the fish that is aware of the water that it's in, like, what the heck is the water? But even amidst that, it's such an ongoing thing to make a conscious choice to see that, and understanding the peace that can come about, just the fact that that awareness can kind of give, and in dissolving itself into the experience of giving, kind of reconcile itself with, hopefully, at least for my case, as I've done some not pleasant things both to myself and others. I want to kind of, not necessarily, I know atonement is a strong word, because there's some things you can and cannot for, but ultimately continue, at least regardless of how things shake out karmically, at least want to be more on a path that keeps giving, and that's something that it's taken me many years to just be at peace with, regardless of how my own past is. I want to keep walking towards a better light. But the way you frame things really helped reiterate, or at least reinforce that in my head. So thank you.
You're welcome, David. Can I ask, I can add some suggestions to that?
Suggestions in terms of what?
In what you said, can I suggest something?
Oh yeah, please, by all means.
I think it's normal for us to look at the story of our lives and still feel some sort of identity with it. Um, but here's a very simple thing that we can all first, we need to resonate with what I'm going to say and then follow it through, which is that all experience, which is happening in the mind, it's coming back as a sort of reflection of what I did in the past and so on. The only thing that it's looking for, once again, we start with the one practice that I always suggest: be who you are, become that awareness, become aware of what's coming through. And then the only thing that these experiences or these memories, these narratives are looking for is discernment. Because if we still identify with a character that lived or did this and that, there is the I thought there, right? We remove that I and watch how discernment begins to see. And I cannot explain you how this happens because it happens individually in all of us, but that's all that is happening when we become aware of the experience, fully aware of it, removing the I thought, right? There's an experience, it brings up emotions and the ways we feel and so on. And we just stay with that and just watch the discernment. Once again, I cannot tell you how that's going to look like because it depends on your own experience, but trust that discernment and you will see that it'll say, oh, okay, that's the lesson. Yes, I could be more kind. And don't let discernment turn into judgment. Or rather, if you see judgment, turn it into discernment. Because judgment is just the same thing, but turns towards you, pointing at you as a thing, right? Discernment is just looking at the same thing and saying, this is the proper way. That's the lesson learned. Move on. And you continue going. So I know it sounds like I just gave you practical steps, but it's just that it's establishing awareness and allowing that to trust what comes through. All the time there's some wisdom that arises or more love towards whatever it was.
Yeah, thank you, Gabe. Caroline, you want to go?
Thank you very much. I appreciate it, man. I don't want to interrupt, but I only want to say that it's one thing to see somebody walking how to ride a bike, but riding it, but to become secondhand nature, like knowing how to breathe. There's a nuance there, but I really appreciate you taking the patience to say that. Thank you.
Mhm. Mhm. Gabe, nice to see you, and thank you for this evening's, I call it satsang as well. So thank you. I kept thinking of Muji Baba as you spoke, and a lot of his teachings are similar to what you pointed out. And I was thinking of this quote from him a long time ago. I remember coming across it, that when you rest in your eternal self, that you are at the height of your being. Just he would talk about marinating in your isness. But I also love the fact he refers to thoughts as tourists, that they come and go, but you don't stay. We all know the clouds and the sky, but I like the reference of the tourist. And another thing came to mind too, that when you mentioned Ramana Maharshi, I was thinking you were already going there. But I had this little quote from his book, Talks, that really just came through for me and landed for me as you were unpacking this teaching this evening. And the quote is not from Ramana Maharshi directly, but it's in the book. And it says, speech arises from the mind. The mind arises from the prana, or the life breath. The prana arises from the light of consciousness. The light of consciousness arises from the Supreme. So it is truly in the silence that I know who I am.
Mm.
And anything after I am is a disqualifier, in my opinion, because that's not truth. The truth is only resting in the eternal self of our forever nature, our eternal nature, infinite nature. But speech arises from the mind. And I think Maharshi talks beautifully and eloquently about just always coming back to that. Who's asking this question? Who wants to know this? Who wants to know just come back to like that. He's got the same kind of, responses to happenings. And that does help me when thoughts arise. Who wants to know this? Who's asking this? Who is that? And I liked your quote about who am I really? I've never put the word really after who am I, which was the eternal first question of my divine awakening. Who am I? And finally, I really like your pointing to experience as movement. Don't know that I don't even want to say thought about that because that's wrong. I haven't, that hasn't entered my awareness, but experience is movement, whether it's mental, whether it's physical, whether it's anything else. So I like that metaphor, and I appreciate you bringing that out. But the more I walk this path, the more I see silence is the true teacher.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Can I add a couple of things, Caroline?
Sure.
First, it's nice seeing you again after almost a year.
Yeah.
Actually, a year almost? Yeah.
That was
May.
August last year.
It was
Our
August.
Philadelphia trip was in August. The homecoming was August.
It was
So
May. Yeah. Wasn't it May?
no, it
In
was August.
Yeah,
I know
Caroline.
because
Yeah,
I
okay, okay.
remember. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
Caroline was at the coming home in Philadelphia.
Oh, okay, okay. I'm mixing things up.
Yeah,
All right.
right.
That's where I met you. And
See,
Yeah.
don't trust the mind again.
Yeah.
There's something as I think I'm gonna backtrack with you, Caroline, because anybody here, just briefly, you don't have to remember the whole thing, but you ever read the Gospel of Thomas?
a little bit.
Yes, Gospel
Little
of
bit.
Thomas.
Yeah.
Thomas, yeah. So this is I think Benjamin is like, hell yeah, I know that. So I'm just going to read one part that is just so beautiful. This is a Gnostic or so-called Gnostic text. I'm not going to get all nerdy, but not all things, all these gospels are not Gnostics. It's just a whole scholar debate. But anyhow, Jesus said, if they ask you, where do you come from? Tell them, we've come from the light, the place where the light came into being by itself, established itself, and appeared in their image. If they ask you, is it you? Then say, we are its children, and we are chosen by our living Father. If they ask you, what's the sign of your Father in you? Jesus is saying, then say, it's a movement and a rest.
Mhm.
Movement and stillness.
Yeah.
So I think that is the best way that I have been able to distill the two aspects of reality, because there is only two aspects. There is what we call stillness, void, self, I, etc. So many things. I call it field of awareness. That's still. And then there is movement, which I call them perceptions, because once again, through, septions. Seption is birth. It comes out, right? So perceptions to me are mind and body. That's it. So mind and body can be squashed together as movement. That's perception, and it creates this thing we call experience, very complex, with a lot of lights, colors, textures, and so on, thoughts, narratives, fantasies, ideas, desires. And then there is the stillness, which we have been ignoring. And I said before that I like to flip things around, and I think all mystics have been wanting to do this because attention from all of us, awareness, self-aware beings, have been fascinating 99.9999% of the time with experience. Everything we look is just experience going back and forth. Attention is moving to all kinds of experiences. And so mystics said, hey, there's another aspect. Take a look at it. Turn back, we say. It's not turning back or inside. It's just realize that there is a stillness that's pervading everything. Is it more important than experience? Some minds are rebels. Some minds say, whoa, no, I'm not that. I'm also this. It's true. You are this. But you've been ignoring the other side. So you're only half of it. Become the other half. Remember. Now, it is true. This reality is so fascinating. And we don't want to take our eyes from it. It's beautiful. We're in love with it, right? But sometimes we get lost in it. And so remember. So we're trying to pull back our attention. All this meditation game is just about returning a little bit more and bringing that into the world. Remembering people, reminding people, hey, it's not that bad actually.
Benjamin?
Thank you, Gabe. Thank you for this experience. I mean, that's truly what it was. And one of my favorite quotes, I think it was Quo, maybe it was Rob, but words are at best an approximation of understanding. Like, this is not the realm of understanding. And you did a great job approximating. I think you really showed us to the door. What I got from it, my takeaway is meet the moment with curiosity, and I am there. I am. Meet the moment, right? So it's in the interaction, it's in the movement, it's in when two come together, right? And I like that you said that the mind is sticky, because I've realized the mind is tricky. I've watched it, turn something around on me. And I'm like, whoa, whoa, you tricky. And so watching the mind, right? The experience. And it also made me think of what Michael Singer said. I got the pleasure of attending to one of his talks in the Temple of the Universe or near Gainesville, Florida. And I think he said a lot with his body language. So usually, his podcasts are just his voice. They don't record in there. And, he says, you think you're up here. You think you're in here, but you're here. And that's what he said with his body language, which said more, It's not even like up here or here. You're back here. This is you. Right? Like beyond the mind. So, Thank you, Gabe.
Thank you, Benjamin.
Thank you, Benjamin.
Can I talk?
Yeah,
I was
Carter.
trying to find. I don't use Zoom very often, and I was trying to find a thing to signal you guys that I wanted to just share something. But and it's funny that because I listen to The Law of One in Spanish from Gabe, and then I'm about to finish in English because I said, well, let me listen a little bit different and funny as it sounds. One of those lessons, I think it was. 98 or something like that. I'm in the 100 now, so I'm about to be done. But you mentioned the Gospel of Thomas, and I had told Gabo in one of our sessions at some point that I think the Law of One allowed me to kind of enter this new perception of reality in a different way. And I told him that maybe if I would have started with Zen books and things, I would have not gotten it. But I think this helped me to see a different perspective of things, and the fact that you guys were talking about how do we get somebody else to get our point of view or to join us or to think the way or to see things the way we are seeing them, and the fact that you guys said just be, and that has really helped me at some point. Also, like Orlando was saying in my practice. When people are sharing, kind of a part of me at some point was still judging their behaviors or whatever was going on in their lives, but now I think I'm seeing it from different perspective, and I just allow them to vent and tell me other things, and just provide a different perspective if they allow me to, and I think it has helped me in that sense, and so I just wanted to share that. But it's been a very beautiful talk, so I really appreciate it. And Orlando, he sent me a text a few minutes before, and so I stopped doing what I was doing and just come listen to you guys. It's always nice to see all of you. But yeah, it was a nice time together again. Just wanted to share that. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Carl. So we're up to 8:30, 8:31. Well, thank you, Gabe. That was very inspiring, and I think it was the most tranquil presentation we've had so far, and meditative. So yeah, thank you very much, and thank you everybody who participated.
Can I steal an extra minute?
Sure.
One more minute.
Yeah.
Before we finish, I wanted to read the full quote from T.S. Eliot, that wait without hope, for hope would be for the wrong thing. It's a very short one. He said, I said to my soul, be still and wait without hope, for hope would be for hope for the wrong thing. Wait without love, for love would be love for the wrong thing. There is yet faith, but the faith and the love are all in the waiting. Wait without thought, for you are not ready for thought. So the darkness shall be the light, and the stillness the dancing.
Powerful. I just have to frame that and put it on my wall. That's so great.
Gorgeous.
Yeah, gorgeous. All right. Well, thank you, everybody. This has been a great Zoom call. Thank you for joining.
And let's end with gratitude for all of the support that we began with. Thank you to our guides. Thank you for all of the support that we receive along the path. Thank you for being with us individually and collectively. And as always, thank you to the One. Amen.
Thank you, West.
Bye, friends.
Bye.
Bye, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you.
See you next time.
Yep.